This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
As you know, we typically spend the Monday show discussing that night's Monday Night Football game, laying out my best bets for that one over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Just so happens tonight's game kind of stinks, and we got a pair of games on Wednesday with 4 different playoff teams involved. So instead of talking Monday Night Football, we're going to break down the 2 Christmas Day games, the Chiefs at the Steelers and the Ravens at the Texans, laying out my best bets and player props for both games. 3 bets I like in both to hopefully get you on the right path for your Christmas Day. Welcome on into Covering the Spread. That's right here on the FanDuel Research podcast feed and Covering the Spread podcast feed. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor at FanDuel Research, here to break down my thoughts on both of the Christmas Day NFL games, letting you know my top bets and player props for this 2-game slate over at FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll dive into all that here in just one second, but first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcast. Unique schedule for this week, not going to be around on either Tuesday or Wednesday. So no shows then, which is why we're talking about Christmas Day for today, but we will have shows Thursday, Friday, typical times for both those for the NFL Best Bet show and the Player Prop show as well. So Covering the Spread for you today, Thursday, Friday, no shows for you on Tuesday and Wednesday. So again, get those in your podcast feed, but also check them out on the YouTube page, the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. Subscribe there and turn on notifications to get notified as we go live each and every weekday. We're going to dive into the bets here in just one second. But first, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit M&D Gambling Health in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to this 2-game NFL slate across Christmas Day, beginning with the first one. That is the Chiefs at the Steelers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Chiefs favored by 2.5, and the total in this game is sitting at 43.5. My spread model is pretty in line with this one. I've got the Chiefs favored by 1.2 points here, so a bit of value on the Steelers, but not enough for me to take their money line, which is currently a plus 126. So that winds up being a stay away for me. I do see value, though, in the over. 43.5, again, is the number right now. Over is minus 115. I've got this one at 45.2. So I'm not super far off market in this one, but I do feel good enough to go with the over here, with 44 being a semi-key number when betting on totals. And a big part of the reason why I like the over here, despite the fact I do show some value in the Steelers, is that I've got a lot of faith in this Chiefs offense right now. If you look at week 16, their first game with Marquise Brown, meaning they had a 3-receiver set at times of Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, and DeAndre Hopkins. In that game, Patrick Mahomes averaged 0.29 passing net expected points per dropback. That is number fire's EPA metric, and 0.11 has been about league average so far this year. Mahomes was at 0.13 heading into that game, and again, 0.29 with having Marquise Brown out there. That's with Brown running just 14 routes. But he's finally got 3 relevant pass catchers for arguably the first time all year. It's been the Rashee Rice injury, and then there was DeAndre Hopkins. They eventually traded for him, and Hopkins did make the offense better, but now This is arguably the best this offense has been all year. I know left tackle is still a big question mark, but they're trending the right direction offensively. Now, the Steelers are a great defense. They rank fifth by my numbers, but the Texans are second. That's the team that the Chiefs faced back on Saturday when Mahomes put up those really good numbers. So it's Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback of all time, with now 3 relevant receivers plus Travis Kelce. I want to buy into that. Also, the injury situation for this game does set up for an over. George Pickens seems like he has a good shot to go, practice in a limited capacity on Sunday. Chris Jones did not practice, and if he can't go, that would open up a lot of things for the Steelers offense as well. So a lot of things for me pointing towards the over here, and I do feel good enough to bet that myself. So first bet for me on Christmas is going to be the over for the Steelers and the Chiefs, 43.5 at -115. Because I like the over, I do feel okay betting some positive player props in this game. And it does include a touchdown bet. And I think, frankly, my favorite bet across the entirety of Christmas is going to be this one. That is Xavier Worthy to score a touchdown, plus 260 at FanDuel Sportsbook. A big part of this is because Worthy's role is seeming like it's spiking when the Chiefs are inside the red zone. Last week against the Texans, Worthy had 2 red zone carries and 4 red zone targets. He now has 5 and 15 in those categories, respectively, across the full season. And this is something we see a lot with teams where they lean on speed more in the red zone when the field gets condensed. It gets very tight. You go towards speed, try to loosen things up. That's led to Worthy having a touchdown in 7 out of 15 games so far this year. That is 56.7%. The implied odds at plus 260 are closer to 25%. It just kind of seems like the way they're using Worthy is pretty conducive to touchdowns, and I do like the over in this game. So I'm happy to buy into Worthy. Don't really want the yardage number because that's not been his specialty so far this year. But a plus 260 for a touchdown for Worthy does seem like a value for me in this game. So I do like Worthy as being an anytime touchdown bet plus 260 at FanDuel Sportsbook. And again, as of right now, kind of think that's my favorite bet across the entirety of this 2-game Christmas slate. Do like a prop on the Steelers side of things, though, as well. Mentioned that Chris Jones may not be able to go for this game. If Jones can't go, that opened up some rushing lanes for the Steelers offense. Now, it could be Najee Harris, but personally, I instead want to buy in to Jaylen Warren. His rushing prop right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, 34.5. And I feel like Warren's role has kind of gone a bit overlooked in how good it has been recently. Warren came back from injury back in week 6. And since then, he's had double-digit carries in 4 separate games. He's gone over 34.5 rushing yards in 7 of those 10 games. Also, last week on Saturday, we did see Warren play a 67% snap rate, putting him above 50% in 3 consecutive games. Now, I don't think this is a situation where he's overtaking Najee Harris because they were down pretty big in that game. Negative game script sets up better for Warren than it does for Harris. But you also think about this offense, they kind of need some juice right now. And Warren is the guy in this backfield who does bring that. So we could see Warren get over 34.5 in a neutral script. But if we do see the Steelers fall behind, he would also likely get a role increase in that scenario as well. So a couple of passes to an over here for Jaylen Warren. That's enough for me to feel good about over 34.5. That is currently -114 at FanDuel Sportsbook. So my favorite bets across this Chiefs and Steelers game, we're going to take the over 43.5 at -115. Like Xavier Worthy to score a plus 260 anytime touchdown, and Jaylen Warren over 34.5 rushing yards. That is -114 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think those set up pretty well to begin things on a fun note for Christmas Day. Second game for Christmas Day is the Ravens and the Texans. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Ravens favored by 4.5, and the total in this game is 46.5. So movement in this market already so far this morning. It was Ravens -3.5, pretty heavy 3.5 before at -120, so not a massive move to cross 4, but noteworthy nonetheless, and the total came down a point. I'm saying value in both those markets personally. And I think that we can lay the 4.5 of the Ravens at -105 and be interested in the over at 46.5. Let's start things off here with the Ravens, -4.5. This comes down to the health of the Texans because obviously they had been struggling all year long. And now there's no Tank Dell. So you're relying after Nico Collins on guys like Dalton Schultz and Robert Woods. Maybe John Mechie gets back for this game. He didn't play on Saturday, but was limited in practice on Sunday. Mechie seemed to be trending up a bit before this injury, before Nico Collins got back. So that would definitely help this offense. But just the Ravens are killers, man. This offense is way too good to be favored by just 4.5 against a team that is really struggling the way the Texans are right now. I know that this Texans defense is very good, but the Ravens have been good against good defenses a lot this year. We saw them do what they did to the Steelers on Saturday. They put up 41 on the Broncos earlier on this year too. They rank first by a good margin in my model's power rankings, and the Texans are 25th on the offensive side of things. That's in large part because they're just dependent on late down CJ Stroud magic, where they're struggling early downs, not moving the football there, and then Stroud bails them out in late downs. That's not sustainable, especially when you've got just one key pass catcher left in Nico Collins. So I do like laying the 4.5 with the Ravens. That is minus 105. As for the over at 46.5 and minus 110, I do feel good about that too. Now, I just spent some time dumping on the Texans offense, but we should still get something out of CJ Stroud and Nico Collins because they're volatile in a good way. It can help us get towards this over. But Ravens games in general have been a scoring bonanza. They've averaged 53.4 total points per game this year, with 11 games going over this total of 46.5. The Ravens side is obvious. They've had 34 plus points in 7 out of 15 games, averaging 27.9 points per game. So the Ravens offense, when they're now indoors, should be able to do a lot here. But the Texans, again, should do something. It is still CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. I do worry about them overall, but even when I downgrade this offense from their baseline, they're already low baseline, and downgrade them a bit more with Tank Dell being out, I still have this total at 50.8. And as a result, I am okay taking over 46.5 at minus 110. It is a bummer that this one has moved against me because I did like it when it's at 47.5 as well. It doesn't feel good to see that number move down, but it came down to 46.5. It was minus 110, got bet back up to minus 115. So I think that we're in a spot where it's probably not going to go down anymore. So, okay, taking over 46.5, minus 115 for the Ravens and the Texans. There's only one prop I feel good about in this game, and it's not necessarily the most fun prop, so it's not quite a sexy Xavier-worthy touchdown bet, but I do like Dalton Schultz over 33.5 receiving yards in this game. Now, Schultz is a guy who does not get yardage when you have two of the big three healthy, the big three being Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. If you got just two of those guys out there, Schultz probably isn't doing a ton. But with Dell leaving early on Saturday, Schultz had 8 targets for 45 yards and a touchdown. If you look at him a couple games before that, 7 targets for 61 yards. And the one game that we had this year, or we had 2 games this year, where there was 2 of the big 3 being out, being Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. In those 2 games, Schultz also went over this number in one of those 2, heading to 60 yards. So Schultz, not a guy I turn to super often, but with it being just Collins left, you can make a strong case that Schultz is now the number 2 pass catcher in this offense, which is part of why I want to lay the 4.5 with the Ravens, but also could be good for Dalton Schultz. I do want to keep eyes on Cade Stover. Stover had an appendectomy, I think like 10-ish days ago, so still pretty recent, but he was able to get into limited practice on Sunday. If Stover goes, it would sour me a bit on Schultz, but given that Stover just had an appendectomy, not expecting to play a full role if he does play. Schultz in the 2 games without Stover, 94% snap rate and 81% snap rate. So I don't love him by any means. This is not a guy I want to sniff alt markets for. You know, I talk about alt markets a lot. This is not going to be the kind of guy I turn to there, but it's a low number. They're probably going to have to throw because I don't think they can run in this Ravens defense as of right now. And Schultz may be their second best pass catching option. So despite the fact I'm still skeptical of Schultz, I do think that there is value in over 33.5 at minus 114 right now. So 3 bets I like for the Ravens and the Texans. Dalton Schultz over 33.5 at minus 114. I like the Ravens minus 4.5. That is minus 105. And like the over 46.5. That is minus 115 at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is all that we have here for today on Covering the Spread. As mentioned, back with you once again Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Megan Payton will join me breaking down her best bets across Week 17 at FanDuel Sportsbook. That'll be live on the YouTube page and up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed after that. So go search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe if you like what you hear leave us a 5-star rating and review, and of course, subscribe to the Covering the Spread, our FanDuel football betting YouTube page as well to get notified as we go live Monday, Thursday, and Friday for this week. If you got any questions for me, I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Enjoy the Christmas betting. Have a happy and safe holiday. We'll talk to you once again Thursday to get you set for the rest of NFL Week 17. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.